Hi, I'm Heather Levy, Communications Chair for the Weston High School, and joining me is Lisa Deorio, Principal at Weston High School. We wanted to sit down and have a conversation about transitioning to high school because we know lots of freshmen and freshman parents have questions about this big change, and so we asked you to submit your questions. Thank you for all of you who did. We received about 20, and we're going to try to get through them all. Some group into categories, so we'll be able to answer them together, but we will cover academics and the curriculum and student life and things about during the school day like lockers, and yes, we're going to talk about the bathroom, so hang in there. But welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to clarify some information about the transition to high school, because it's a big transition, not only for our students but also for our parents, and so I welcome the opportunity to answer the questions and shed light on some more pressing topics.
Great. So we're going to start sort of easy.
Sure.
And just talk about scheduling meetings with teachers, okay? This is a new year, lots of new classes, lots of new teachers. We haven't had back to school night yet. So what's the protocol for scheduling time with teachers, or dealing with anything about your students' progress or other challenges?
So I would say that the high school differs from the middle school in that we are not on a team structure. So we do not have team meetings with teachers run by the counselor where the parents come in. It's just a different structure. 73% of our classes are mixed grade level classes, so we can't even say that we have a true ninth grade team, for example. There are about 5 different courses that students are in ninth grade, just in math alone. So what we suggest is, if you have a question regarding a particular class, that you email that teacher, and that teacher will get back to you within 24 hours and will respond. If you would like to speak to that teacher, you can give him or her some times that you're available. I like speaking on the phone because I think sometimes things get lost in email, but that's my suggestion. If after talking to the teacher you still have questions, then you should go to your school counselor, and the school counselor can help with that. Or if there's a question about more than one class, and the school counselor can kind of gather information and get back to you on that. And then the next, I guess in the protocol, it would be your student's assistant principal.
Okay, great. Now what about homework assignments? There's a web, we all use technology, Power School, but
sure.
Is there a protocol for most teachers posting assignments on their web pages?
Again, we are different than the middle school. The middle school is a Google Classroom, the entire school. They have been Google Classroom the last several years, and they also, it's my understanding, have team calendars where you can go and you can look on your child's team and you can see all of the homework. Again, because of the structure of the high school and we don't have set teams, that is virtually impossible to replicate. So we have teachers that many of our teachers do use the Google Classroom, that platform, and your student has to invite you to join the classroom page. Some teachers still use Final Site, which is the website, and then we also have a district platform called Canvas, where many of our art teachers use that. Certain courses lend itself better to certain kinds of platforms.
Okay. All right, and we're going to have school noises because we're meeting in Lisa's office, so there might be a bell,
sorry,
phone's ringing, but we can make it work. So there were a couple questions about time management and
sure.
helping kids with that.
Yeah.
Does the school provide any study skills or time management classes?
Well, that's very interesting, and it takes me back also, I remember, to the days when I was at the middle school. The best kind of skills, organizational skills, things like that help our students, we find, especially in the ninth graders, is actually done in the classroom with the teachers through the different types of learning and instruction they provide. Now, we have our freshman orientation. Before that, we did have our Aspiring Scholars Academy, which about 46 students participated in. And during that, there was a lot of talk about that, both at Aspiring Scholars and freshman orientation. Every student gets a planner, and the planner is really good in that, yes, apps are fine on your phone and things, but sometimes the planner that organizes and has the rotations in and everything is the best way to look at it. Probably the hardest adjustment for our freshmen is that the rotational schedule and that 2 classes drop every day. So when you're looking at what you need in your backpack and you're thinking, how is my child going to be carrying all of these materials? Freshmen panic. They throw everything in. They want to be prepared. They don't want to forget everything. So they load their backpacks full of things. And as you see them go along the grade levels, they're carrying less and less. Because the idea is to develop the skill of saying, I don't have these 2 classes today. I don't need these materials to bring. I'm bringing what I need and maybe something I need for quiet study. And to organize things that way and really use the planner as a guide, as well as whether it be the Google Classroom or the Canvas with the teacher.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. What about apps? Are there any apps for, we had a question for helping to manage students' class and activity schedule?
There was, a couple of years ago, a student did develop an app, but it was sort of his property of that, with populating it with the schedule and everything else, and some students found that helpful. Again, we go back to the planners, that we know everybody has a planner. Everyone also has their own, I would say, organizational style if they want to use their Google Calendar or not. But the planner has the days off, the rotations, everything in it. It also has pages in it of the special schedules. But whenever we do have a special schedule, we email it out to the students, which is important. Here you have to check your email every day, students, because you will get, okay, this Friday, this is the special schedule. And then you can look at the times and everything because the classes may be shortened. We really rely on the students taking ownership in that and checking their email, planning, and it takes time. It's a process. But there's a big difference between first and second semester, so hang in there, parents.
Okay, we're only a few weeks in. We'll get them there. Now, there was a question about some homework that was being assigned with a due date within the system for that night, so I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Sure. I know there was a concern, and I suspected that I knew where the concern came from, and so I did look into it. There was a concern. It's a homework that was in a particular language class to do. It was an online homework, and the teacher found that if when it was assigned over the weekend, that the students would come in and they wouldn't have it done on Mondays. And so she was saying, get it done, get it done, get it done, but we don't mandate getting it done by Friday at 11 o'clock. That miscommunication has been corrected. We try to, again, tell students you should do this, but there are students with sports and things like that might not make the 11 o'clock deadline, but that's where that came from.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you. What about an acceptable time to return quiz grades? Is there something that's expected that parents can know if they don't see a grade in Power School that it would be coming?
Sure. One thing I would say about Power School is every teacher keeps his or her grade book a little bit different. So don't panic. Sometimes if you see a bunch of zeros in, if you look, they could be for future assignments. But generally speaking, there is no set, fast rule because our assignments are so different, again, depending on the course that you have. But it is reasonable that if you have a quiz, that the quiz is returned within the week. Papers, things like that might take a little bit longer. I know there was a concern in one of the science classes about quizzes. There don't appear to be any quizzes. And I actually went in and I looked in the grade books and I saw that in fact every section of that course had 4 grades in it. So if there could be a problem with you accessing Power School or making sure that you have the right codes or anything like that, you can certainly reach out to your student counselor and we can clear that up.
Okay, great. What about innovation strategies that teachers use? What's different at the high school versus the middle school?
I don't know if it's different. I would say it's over the years we have a very different approach as a district on teaching and learning. When many of us went to school, I'm dating myself, class of 79, Darien High, yay. It was a lot of sage on the stage. And even back in the 80s and early 90s, people would get up there, they would talk and talk and talk, and kids would take notes and notes and notes. Now, for example, if you go into, let's pick on Mr. Durand in his English class. If you go into his English class and there's a discussion in what we call a fishbowl, where students are sitting in the middle and they're discussing specific topics and questions, the outer rim is taking notes, but they're taking notes through Padlet, which is another online program where everyone can see each other's notes, they can comment on each other's notes, so it's a real interactive kind of setting. And then there's also a collective responsibility within the class for everyone's success. That's very different than, someone standing there and you're just writing notes or responding. I think the assessments are different. Sometimes people say there's a lot of entrance activities, a lot of exit slips, and all those formative assessments give us data on, also to the students, how am I doing? If I have to answer these 2 questions before I can leave math class, and then I get them back the next day, and they're graded or this feedback, that's not to stress anybody out. It's to provide continual feedback on, how am I doing and what do I need to do to improve? I'm really proud of a lot of the innovative efforts that our teachers have done here over the years. One of the new things we have is the science research program, which is incredible. I was there the first day, and you had freshmen talking to seniors about the research that they wanted to conduct, and it was all generated based on their research plan. I'd love to move more classes in that direction. I could go on and on about teaching and learning, but we try to be as innovative as possible, and that's also one of my goals, is that we create a climate here where innovation, risk-taking is encouraged, because that's the way that we get better at a school. The minute we are complacent and, well, we're terrific, we're one of the top high schools not only in the state and the country, then we're not. So we have to keep looking for our next level of work, but to ensure that it's really something valuable and meaningful, and that it fits the needs of the students, and that it's driven by the students.
Right. It's interesting what you said about Power School, because I think all those micro grades that students constantly get, when they think of them as grades, it can become stressful.
Yes.
But positioning it as feedback that's constant helps you see where you're performing, where you may need to do some work, helps parents see where they may need to provide some support. Is another way of looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. I think sometimes people say, oh my gosh, it's a 0, this is terrible. But when you look at it's broken down and the little pieces of what it is, it's continual feedback. I tell the freshmen, and I told them this year, I said, you will struggle. I said, there will be moments where you will fail in something. That doesn't mean you're going to fail the course, but you'll have some struggle. You'll forget something. That's how you learn, and we want you to struggle, and we want to be able to help you through that, and to be able to understand that, it's not all about, I have to get everything perfect. It's about growing and figuring out, what's my learning style? How do I learn best? How can I support myself in my talents? What are my challenges? What resources, like the Writing Center, can I go to get help? Because all of this is in preparation for college and career. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really important, that idea of resiliency. So if your child forgets something, don't bring it. Let them forget it. And they have to work through the consequence. And that's really hard. It was hard for us. I found out that my husband was constantly running the saxophone up to school. I didn't know that. When I found out, I said, don't you dare bring that saxophone. She didn't want to carry it. That's what it boiled down to. They have to experience that, and they have to take responsibility now, because they're not going to be able to just turn it on like that in college.
Right.
So
now, if students want to spend some extra time with teachers,
sure,
building a relationship, going to extra help, what's the access like there?
The access is different depending on the teacher, to be frank. Some teachers come in really early, and then they do leave by 10 of 3. Some teachers leave at the end of the school day because they coach. What I encourage the students to do is to talk to the teacher, to look at the teachers, whether it be the Google class or whatever, when is the teacher available? To go into, just ask the teacher, I'm not sure, I don't understand this, I need a little bit of extra help, and then go with something, like, this is where I'm struggling. But our teachers are really receptive to that. If you don't speak up, we won't know. And to be able to say, okay, I'll be here after school, Mr. Chapa, today. Sure, no problem. I'll be there. I'll meet you. But you have to speak up. The other thing is that we do have a testing room. So if you miss something and you think, especially freshmen, how am I going to make this quiz up? Where am I going to do it? What's going to happen? And you have quiet study, because every freshman has quiet study at some point. We have a testing room with the teacher, so you can say to your math teacher, I can make it up during this quiet study, get it passed, go make it up there with the teacher on duty. But again, you have to take responsibility and do that. Mm-hmm. But the structure's in place to facilitate it. And now the testing room on certain days is staying open until 3:30.
Okay.
Which is helpful.
Right. So there'll be times when students want to meet with their guidance counselors, and
Yes.
we know that this is a busy prep time for college for the
Yes.
seniors, and we received an email about just allowing for that. But how does that interaction work, and how do students get time with their guidance counselors?
Sure.
One-on-one, and how can parents get to know them as well?
Sure. So this year, I do have to say, it was a very challenging start to the year in that, all our phone numbers changed, we all went to Gmail, which is still a challenge for me. So there were a lot of structural changes that I think also limited access just within the first couple of weeks. But usually what we say is, if there's a scheduling issue, let's say you don't have American history, you don't have an English course, of course you should come right in and we can take care of that. But in the first 2 to 3 weeks, we are kind of just letting things sort of settle. Students get into a routine. On September 26th, we have a special freshman advisory where all the freshmen will meet his or her guidance counselor. They get into a small group, so there'll be about 30 or 40 of them per counselor, and the counselor will talk to them a little bit about the transition, get feedback from them, all of that. That's on the Wednesday, September 26th. Freshman health is first quarter, and freshman health is entirely about the adjustment to high school. So if you see, my kid has health today, there's some topic in how to make him or her feel more comfortable. And then we have a new program this year, and it's going to be more of a meet and greet for our school counselors, and it starts at 6:15 the night of back to school on the 27th. In the past, we brought everybody into an auditorium or the cafeteria for the freshmen, and we did kind of a program, and there was limited time to kind of meet your counselor one-on-one. So this time what we would like to do is we're going to be sending out a little video clip where they introduce themselves, and then there will be about 45 minutes before back to school where you can connect, introduce yourself, things like that. If you want to have a meeting beyond that, then email the counselor, and he or she will reach out to you and find a mutually convenient time.
Okay, good. So let's move on to student life and activities.
Sure.
There are some concerns from a couple parents that their students won't have enough time to do everything they want to do. So be in a sport after school. There are only so many hours in the day, but the afternoons are the time when the clubs meet and various activities and the sports. So how do they manage that?
Well, you can't do it all. First of all, and so you do have to make choices. But that being said, there is flexibility within our program, I would say. With our sports, sometimes there's earlier practice than later practice. Our library is open till 4 o'clock every day. I don't know if people realize that, but your student is welcome to stay in the library. Some clubs meet right after school. Some clubs might even meet in the early evening, it depends on the club and what the club is doing. Some clubs don't meet as often as others. We have a lot of student-initiated clubs, like if you have an interest and you want to start your own club, you get 15 students to sign up and say, I want to be a part of this club, and then Ms. Scavoni, our assistant principal, will help you find a advisor. And then those clubs also can be very tailored as to when they meet. For example, the Young Progressives Club, they meet sometimes very briefly right after school, but then the follow-up is done at different times that don't coordinate or conflict with sports.
Right.
Or you could be playing a sport in the fall and then want to get involved in Key Club more in the winter. So there's that flexibility as well. I don't think I heard someone say, well, I couldn't go to this meeting, so I guess I'm not in this club. And we said, no, you can always go, you can always express an interest and be as involved as you want. If there's one particular activity a club does that's your focus, then you can just go for that particular activity. So it does work out, but there are times where students have to make choices. Because we don't certainly want, to be playing, a sport and be involved in 4 clubs and everything all at once. That is a lot.
Right.
So it's all about balance, I guess I would say.
Sure. And what about during the day for athletes who are in a rigorous sport after school, taking PE? A parent asks,
sure.
Is there any way to get out of the PE when they have so much demands after school and free that up for study time?
Sure, I understand. Physical education and health are a requirement, or a law, I guess I would say. There's a specific requirement that the state has that we have to fulfill. I remember back when I was, again, in high school, if you played a sport, you didn't have to do PE. But sometimes people think physical education in the program we have is not necessarily a sport. They learn CPR, which is really important. They do lifelong wellness and how to stay fit when you're out of season. If you're in season, how to develop different muscles so you're not just constantly working the same muscle if you play soccer all year round. So there are other things that are done in PE. That being said, we did look at the PE requirements and we realized that we were about a semester over what we needed. So last year, for the first year, we took 1 quarter away junior year, and we took 1 quarter away the first quarter senior year. So no senior has PE first quarter. And the reason specifically was that they would have more flexibility in their schedule to make sure that all their applications got done for college.
Working on the app.
And that they could access our new college and career center, counselor, and all of that. So unfortunately, there is a state requirement.
Okay. So let's move on to the school day.
Okay.
Lockers all throughout the school. Doesn't seem like anybody uses them.
No, they don't.
So what's the deal? Do they have lockers? Why aren't they using them? And has this been addressed or considered at all?
Everyone does have a locker. Everyone has an assigned locker. Believe it or not, on your freshman schedule, the freshmen received locker numbers. There is a locker in the school designated for each freshman. Unfortunately, when the school doubled in size after the construction, that's when I noticed it, because I've been here a long time. People stop using their lockers. There's 4 minutes to get in between classes, and they chose to carry their bags instead of using their lockers. If you have a locker way up on the top of the science wing, I can kind of understand that. But then there are other lockers that are down closer in the instructional core, but they don't use the locker. They use their PE locker for their PE clothes. They'll use their team lockers in the team locker room. So if you're on the ski team, don't worry, you don't have to carry around your skis all day or your lacrosse sticks. But as far as the lockers, no. They don't use them. We're going to send out the locker map again as a reminder to freshmen, but the majority of the students don't use them no matter how much we implore them to, show them where they are.
School today.
It's school today.
Okay. And what about the bathrooms, the scary bathrooms that there's lots of rumors in middle school about the vaping in the bathrooms. Kids say they won't use the bathroom because there's vaping in them. How much vaping is going on, and what are the consequences for vaping when it occurs?
Well, we have about over 20 bathrooms, I would say. I don't know the specific number, but some of them are newer than others. I can certainly understand the perception that it's scary to go in if someone is vaping. Have students been caught vaping in the bathrooms? Yes. The Board of Education addressed it as far as the consequence in their policy. And now if you have a vape product or if you are vaping, you are automatic 2-day in-school suspension, which is different. That's a pretty hard line. Last year, we actually put up signs with the consequences on them in the bathrooms. Some students didn't like that and tore them down. But we wanted to really make sure that everyone knew that these are the consequences. I mean, it's hard. I would ask for your support with it. It's really unfortunate. I saw the other day on the news where they were saying, well, this vaping product started with trying to get people to stop smoking cigarettes, and now there's a whole other unintended market with these youngsters. I will say that when I have to call, or the assistant principals have to call and say, your son or daughter had a vape pen, in his shoe or in her pocket, or, they're very small, you can put it right up your sleeve. Oftentimes the parent is very surprised that it's my child. Yes, I'm sorry to say it is. So we will keep having the security and the SRO and the administrators and teachers walking in the bathrooms and checking. Whenever, sometimes people say, why is the bathroom closed? Oftentimes, if a bathroom is closed, it is because there is a plumbing issue. We had a plumbing issue just at the beginning of the week where there was a plumbing issue over by the gym, and the only time we could get the plumbers to come was about 4 hours later. It was an emergency call. We had to shut the bathrooms. So any help that people can give us to reinforce the message that, you shouldn't be vaping. It's not acceptable. We will do our best to enforce it and to make sure that the bathrooms are, they're comfortable places for students to use the bathroom.
Okay. That's helpful information, absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, we have about 2 more questions. So
Okay.
one is on college prep, even for our freshmen.
Oh, yeah.
There's a question, when should we start thinking about college?
Okay. Please do not start discussing and pressuring your child freshman year about where they're going to go. Because when we talk about stress, that's what happens. They get very stressed out. I was a bit surprised when I spoke to the 8th grade last year and someone raised his hand and already told me where he was planning on going and what he was planning to do. And all I could think of was, that's great, but you are building this expectation up from the time you are 12, 13 years old. And if you do not get into that school, that should not define you. So we are really concerned about that, about starting too soon. Our counselors will say freshman year should be about high school, adjusting to high school, taking courses, finding your sort of your niche with social aspect, co-curricular. We will make sure that everyone has an appropriate educational plan that will put them on the right trajectory for different schools. But freshman year is not the time to even go down that road. Sophomore year, we start with career, interest inventories, different courses. Your students will always meet with a counselor to discuss his or her classes for the following year. That discussion will take place in the winter this year. So then you have sophomore year, and then in junior year, at the beginning, it starts to get more involved, I guess I would say. We have a program that the counselors deliver seminars to both students and parents. We have this wonderful college and career counselor this year the Board of Education supported. She is amazing, Miss Green. She has been in here meeting with our seniors before 7 o'clock in the morning because we want to make sure that they have access, because she's brand new. She wasn't here in the spring. She will be meeting with the juniors starting in the winter. She does lists, revises lists. She has connections with these colleges where she can pick up the phone and talk to specific people because she is representing our school. So between her and our counseling staff, I would say to you, there's really no reason to get really crazy or to go look for paid college consultants. We have all the resources here. An amazing writing center where teachers dedicate their time to working on the essays. But hold off. Let's get through freshman year and be calm. Sophomore year, we can start thinking about maybe possible career choices. But we will work really hard to get your student into the school that he would like to go to and where he will be successful.
That's great.
That's the best.
We have some time. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to
Sure.
Mrs. Deorio or through the other channels we discussed. We did have a question about why all of the PTO meetings are during the day, which I'll answer on behalf of the PTO. They have experimented in the past with holding the meetings at night. It's a wonderful idea. Unfortunately, we didn't have even as many people come at night as during the day. Having said that, if you are interested and you want to encourage us to try that again, please let Dawn Egan, the president, know. Send an email, reach out to us. We're going to try to use technology to put the administration and teachers in front of you more and help you ask questions so you can get the information you need. So we're open to ideas. Please send us any if you have them. And and follow us on the Weston High School PTO Facebook group. If you hopefully you're already signed up in the membership and you're getting our weekly emails, so we want to keep the communication going. And thank you so much for your time. It was great to hear from Lisa and get so much great helpful information.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Heather.
All right, terrific. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.